When I was 14, I got exposed by my male family members. I remember posting some pics on MySpace of a school trip where I was posing with my girlfriends in our room while I was wearing a tank top where my belly was showing. I remember my uncle sending these pics to my mom, shaming me for posting such whorish pictures, which made me feel so embarrassed. I felt so ashamed of these pics and I felt like a horrible person for upsetting my family members. It made me realize that I had to be more cautious with what I post. This wasn't the only time I got exposed. Over the past few days, people have been talking about one specific problem in our society: exposing culture. This topic has been discussed in several clubhouse rooms, and these rooms usually start well-intended, but as soon as the straight cis men jump in, they claim the room, take up all the space, and start pointing to women, asking them to explain their traumas to them, as if they've never heard them before. Toxic. So, what is exposing culture? First of all, exposing culture is yet another reason why men should stay the fuck out of women's business. Exposing culture is a direct result of shame culture, which is inextricably linked to misogyny and men's favorite system of oppression called patriarchy. I want to explain what all these terms mean, and in this series with Lilith Mag, I want to break down what patriarchy is, using real-life examples of problems which women and queers deal with on a daily basis, just to show the extent of damage this oppressive system has on our lives. Men have no idea. The trigger that led to these discussions is a figure here in the Netherlands with a significant following. This man mainly exposes girls, women, and queer people with pics or videos they posted on their public profile, reposts them and frames them as haram and sinful, and basically encourages his following to shame and harass these victims. It has even been said that he demands money from his victims who request him to remove the post. Lock him up. This man isn't some single exceptional evil case, but this happens on a much larger scale. It's one of the many examples of how patriarchy makes sure how easily men get away with harassing women and queers in our society. People either participate in the shaming or they turn their heads the other way. No one stands up for these women in fear of being attacked themselves or simply not caring. And even victim blaming, saying things such as, "Oh yeah, you know what the dangers and risks are of social media, oh yeah." Is that what you say when someone gets ran over by a car? "Oh yeah, you know the dangers of leaving your house. Wouldn't have ended up in a hospital bed, but there you are. You little risk taker." I want to focus on non-white women here because, yes, white women also experience violence at the hands of men, but exposing culture is such a specific problem which is linked and upheld by our MENA communities. It's in our communities where exposers have such a power. Why? Because we grow up in a shame culture where a distorted interpretation of religion is misused to justify these misogynistic practices. By framing the victim's post as sinful, the exposer appoints himself into this power position as if he was sent by God himself, which ironically is sinful in itself. And now, so what is this shame culture we grow up in? Shame culture makes sure that we follow social norms set by our community. And if we disobey or break those social norms, we feel shame and fear judgment and isolation from our environment, which is our family within our community. The social norms for women are very different from men. This is because of misogyny. Misogyny is the hatred of women. And misogyny is a tool of patriarchy, a system of oppression designed by men for men. Women and femmes experience the same misogyny all around the world, all enabled by patriarchy, your sponsor. So because of patriarchy, men think they own our bodies. Centuries of patriarchy have protected and enabled men's entitlement to women's bodies. Because of patriarchy, women are perceived and treated as community property, socialized with the goal to serve the men in our lives. From a young age, we are taught to internalize these rules. You might recognize some of these rules. You shouldn't be loud as a woman. Be modest. You should suppress your anger to comfort the people around you. If you express your anger, you will be labeled as dramatic. You should dress modestly. If you dress too sexy, you deserve to be assaulted. That color lipstick makes you look like a whore. I know you're 12. Not in any way should you express your sexuality. You should learn how to cook, not because it's a useful life skill, but you should be able to feed your future husband, and your father, and your older brothers. Yes, I know you're 11, so what? Serve men, understand men, show love to men, forgive men. Especially at the expense of your own mental health and self-development. When we disobey these rules of patriarchy, we get shamed and harassed and blamed for it when we get attacked. Because hey, if she would have obeyed the rules, this wouldn't happen to her. This is called victim blaming. I want people, and especially men, to feel the same rage as we do when another victim is exposed. I want them to speak up, and I want the anger that is intended for the victim to shift to the abuser, because exposing is abuse. Imagine the power of people collectively getting mad at the exposer instead of their victims. How dare you shame a woman like that? How dare you expose a trans person like that? How dare you expose another human being like that? If people would start doing this, exposers would see their power diminish. There will be no audience left for it. As soon as we stop seeing women's bodies and sexualities as something sinful, the thrill of exposing someone would be eradicated. And even if we don't, we see drinking alcohol as something sinful, yet no one is exposing, harassing, or assaulting Saeed, Bilal, and Hamid for drinking gin tonics on the weekend. All of a sudden, it's only God can judge them. Live and let live. That's how it should be. Start respecting women the same way you respect men. 3 years ago, I was exposed again. I was 25 and my male family members tried shaming me again by sending my mother 21 screenshots of my Instagram. In the majority of pics, I was fully clothed, having fun, but somehow that was too provocative. The bikini pics were taken at the beach. I wasn't a kid anymore, and there I was, being shamed for simply existing in my female body at my big age. Instead of feeling as ashamed and embarrassed as I was at age 14, I was furious. They couldn't shame me because I saw the hypocrisy in what they were doing. And I took that power from them by being mad at them. I haven't spoken to them since. And that's the thing with shame culture. Shaming only works if you believe in that social norm. When I was exposed at age 25, I had a completely different reaction than when I was exposed at age 14. It's because at age 25, I didn't agree anymore with those patriarchal values because I knew that these were designed to control women and keep women in check. At age 14, I had no idea. Listen, the most horrible thing for these victims is that these pics or videos would be seen by their family members. We MENA women, we carry guilt. The guilt for hurting our parents by simply choosing ourselves. Choosing to express ourselves the way we want to. Choosing to express or explore our sexualities. Choosing to engage in a healthy self-development. Something our parents had to suppress for generations. We as young girls are taught to always put others' needs before ours. And if we don't, we feel guilty. And it takes years to unlearn that guilt. It pushes us into leading double lives. If you're a young girl, a woman, LGBTQ, I want to encourage you to start living your truth step by step. And allow yourself to be angry at the system because it's unfair to us. Please surround yourself with like-minded people who won't judge you and understand where you're coming from. Allow yourself to start accepting yourself and therefore shattering the expectations of your parents. Choosing to live your life a certain way, in a way where you choose your happiness, is an act of rebellion. We need to start learning how to not give a fuck. And it's easier said than done. Believe me, I know. It took me years. But being angry helps. For our safety, men and women and queers live double lives. But also because we don't want to hurt our parents who have set patriarchal heteronormative expectations for us. We are literally wired to not be able to stand our parents' pain or disappointment. Our parents are people too, and they are allowed to grieve about the loss of their version of you. It takes time, and I personally know this because I've been lucky enough to have been surrounded in my early 20s by much older Moroccan women who had already broken those barriers in their families. And one of them told me something I never forgot. When you're a kid, your parents teach you life. Once you grow up and start living in your truth, you start teaching them life. And it will hurt them. At the moment, it will feel like an eternity. But when you look back, it would seem like it was only 5 minutes. This woman broke the barriers in her family, causing pain and exclusion from her home. But eventually, she was accepted again, this time on her terms. Because her parents took their time to grieve. Allow your parents to grieve. Take that time. I never forgot that, and I want you to remember that too, because it helped me a lot.